Wake up, Billies, wake up, Billies. Another day is here. Wake up, Billies, wake up, Billies. We gotta keep moving, na 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 na. Wake up, Billies, wake up, Billies. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Billies, wake up, Billies. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Be yourself, see yourself. This is a show by people. Billies our hopes so to needless reason. Nobody feel left out is the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love, respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's how we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes. WB. And all the things that will free happen like I got blue skies. And nothing make people get victimized. Let's work together for better. We got to unite. Billies, yeah. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. Another day is here. Wake up, Billies, wake up, Billies. We gotta keep moving, na 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 na. Wake up, Billies, wake up, Billies. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Billies, wake up, Billies. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Get up, make every day count. Don't waste it, people. Do your part, play a role, get where you need to. You can tune in from work or in your vehicle. If you got a problem, pick up the phone. Why wait till time? Call in, it's a show. It no matter even if you're at home. Just call in, call in, call in. WB. Wake up, Billies, wake up, Billies. Another day is here. Wake up, Billies, wake up, Billies. We gotta keep moving, na 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 na. Wake up, Billies, wake up, Billies. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Billies, wake up, Billies. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Be yourself, see yourself, this is a show my people. Billies our hope, so to needless reason. Nobody feel left out is the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love, respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's how we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes, WB. And all the things that will free happen like I got blue skies. And nothing that people get victimized. Let's work together for better. We got to unite. Billies, yeah. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. Another day is here. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. We gotta keep moving, na 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 na. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB.
All right, good morning and welcome. It's WUB Wake Up Billy's Morning Vibes for Wednesday, the 6th of November 2024. And wherever you are, we hope that you're off to a great start to your new day. Give thanks if you have health and strength, energy, and all that great stuff. We are thankful that you are going to start your day with us. We know your morning is usually, especially for adults, very busy. And of course, we know your routine has many components. We are glad that you're going to find a way to fit us in, listen where you could listen or watch where you could watch. And of course, if you get the chance, jump in and engage with us, which is, of course, the ultimate. I'm Mose Hyde. I'm hosting. I'm the man behind the wheel today. And it's always a pleasure for me to be here. Always thankful for the opportunity. Always thankful for the help to be here in your presence. We're glad you're here, you've linked, you're listening to Creme Radio, you're watching XTV, or maybe you're getting us via our apps. We hope you already got your apps on, our apps on your device, right? We hope so. Or it is you're getting us streamed on social media, YouTube. I hope you're subscribing. Get that. Make All Relationship Official on YouTube. XTV Belize. Just subscribe. Doesn't cost you a thing. And to those getting us via simulcast coverage, of course, that's old school. We still waiting to those networks operating that still put us out, either on radio or TV, cable. Great. It's good to be here. All right, Belize, it's Wednesday, and you know how it works, right? We don't jump right into the main event. We've got to get things started, slow track, stretch out, warm up properly. We've got a bit of news for you. But before that, we've got your weather forecast for the day. You know that. From the National Meteorological Service, we've got the weather forecast, and the forecaster is Tariq Matches.
Fair and mostly dry weather conditions prevail. The 24-hour forecast: mostly sunny skies today and clear to partly cloudy tonight. Showers, if any, will be isolated. The maximum temperatures for today will reach 89 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 92 inland and 82 up in the hills. The lower temperatures for tonight will be around 76 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 70 inland and 66 up in the hills. The winds will be light and variable, and the sea conditions will be like chop. A low tide will occur this morning at 7:32, a high tide this afternoon at 1:59, another low tide this evening at 6:13, and another high tide early tomorrow morning at 12:29. The sun rose this morning at 5:53 and will set this evening at 5:18. The moon will rise this morning at 10:26 and will set tonight at 9:35. In the sargassum forecast, sargassum impacts are expected to remain minimal for the next 2 weeks. The outlook for Thursday and Thursday night is for a similar trend in weather conditions. In the tropical weather outlook, at 6 a.m. this morning, Hurricane Raphael was located near latitude 21 degrees north and longitude 81.6 degrees west, or about 90 miles east-southeast of the Isle of Hyde, or about 160 miles south-southeast of Havana, Cuba. Raphael was moving to the northwest at 14 miles per hour with a maximum sustained winds of 100 miles per hour. This system does not pose a threat to the country. For more details on our forecast products, please visit our website at nms.gov.bz. With that, we're in this morning's forecast from the Belize National Met Service.
The first private radio since 1989, Creme FM presents the news. Informative, accurate, current information, local, regional, and international news, weather and sports. And now, the news.
The court ruling on the Shamal Foster case was precedent setting for an important reason. It explicitly states that recording a police officer engaging the public while on duty is a constitutional right of every citizen that falls under freedom of expression and protection of the law. His attorney, Leslie Mendes, spoke on this yesterday. As you may recall, the current Commissioner of Police has declared on several occasions that the public can record police on duty.
It is precedent setting, at least in the Caribbean. It's the first case that we would have where a court is specifically acknowledging and recognizing the right to record, and also giving some insight as to why that is important. Again, the court says that obviously the police has the power to search, the police have the power to even use force, but the police doesn't have the right really to evade public scrutiny or an appraisal of their work. And that is the function of being able to record police officers in the conduct of their duties. And this is the first time that we've seen a Caribbean court then specifically recognize that and confirm that it is contained as a constitutional right. What we usually expect, or I think that the assumption is that when a court recognizes that a particular act a particular act is contained within a constitutional right, what is assumed is that the public authorities will then operationalize that and ensure that that is placed on policy, that there's some sensitization across the board for police officers to know that that is in fact a right and that you're not allowed to ask anybody to stop recording. That's the assumption. But for instance, you say that, well, this has been acknowledged by the department, by the minister even, I believe, that you have the right to record. But when something happens, as we have seen many times now, we've seen videos in the news where there is an explicit request by a police officer saying, stop record, you need to stop recording. And there's no follow-up to that. So in theory, we do have affirmative statements from the public authorities, from the commissioner, from the minister, accepting that this is in fact the right, and yes, you have the right to record. But then there's no follow-up. There's no operationalizing that and ensuring that police officers in fact respect that.
Mendes went so far as to declare that it is dangerous for the high command of the police department to state that the public can record police on duty without operationalizing it.
You place citizens at risk when you tell them, yes, you have the right to record, yes, you have the right to record, but you don't follow up with any reprimand or any sanctions against police officers that then become annoyed or violent when you actually exercise this right. So I do think that while we welcome, I think all of us would welcome positive statements and affirmative statements from the commissioner, from the minister saying, yes, you have the right to record. In fact, I think it places people at risk when you don't follow up when you don't follow up with actual policy, and more than that, disciplinary actions when that right is not respected.
Attorney Leslie Mendes, who represented young tour guide Shamar Foster in a lawsuit against the Belize Police Department regarding abuse of power as they executed a search in April 2022 at the Belize City Municipal Airport, says they are satisfied with the award of damages and compensation in the case, though it does not serve as a deterrent. On the other hand, Mendes is unhappy about the determination in relation to the mechanism of the Professional Standards Branch. While she understands the reasoning of the court, she believes that it is a matter that can be challenged in benefit of the public at large, despite the fact that the mechanism is an internal disciplinary process.
We said, in this case, there's a complaint of police misconduct, and police misconduct that is a breach, is equivalent to a breach of the citizen's constitutional rights, which is, again, we placed a premium on that. It's contained in our supreme law, and so we have a very high interest, a duty, and obligation to ensure that those rights are respected. And so our argument was that in that context, when a member of the public makes a complaint against an officer for abusive conduct that has now breached their constitutional rights, the process that the Professional Standard Branch now adheres to has to respect the right of the citizen to be heard, to be included, to be able to participate, to at least know when the proceedings are starting, know what the outcome of the proceeding is. Before we went to court, we didn't know what the outcome of the proceeding was. We had sent several requests for updates, and those were not responded. So the argument that we were trying to make is, even though this is an internal disciplinary process for the police department, because now it's engaging with making determinations and assigning sanctions for breaches of constitutional rights that affect members of the public, then members of the public ought to be included. The response to that was that, well, again, it's an internal contained process, and in terms of fairness, the principal person that might be affected by this process is the officer that is now facing disciplinary proceedings, and so the obligation of fairness lies is inures to him. And the court agreed. The court agreed with that argument.
Mendes believes that a PSB process that also provides accountability to the aggrieved party will deliver justice for both sides.
I must say we were disappointed, simply because the reality of it is that whenever instances of police brutality, sometimes that ends even in death, the call on the victim is make your complaint to the professional standard branch. And what that means, or the message that sends, is that this is a mechanism that exists for you as well, right? This is a mechanism that we have there to address concerns, to address this very serious issue that we have with respect to police non-compliance or police misconduct. And so come to the professional standard branch, because that is where your concern will be addressed, and that is where you will be included. But now in this case, we effectively see that that's not really what functionally, or what the department, and I guess to some extent the ministry, views this process to be. This is not necessarily a process for citizens or members or general members of the public. This is a process for the department to be able to manage its police officers and ensure that the rules are being followed, whether it's about their own internal processes or whether it's about the obligations that they have to the public. But nonetheless, it's an interest for the department itself and the police officer. And so members of the public in practice do not really have an interest here. And so their voices or their rights or whatever won't be prioritized. They're not prioritized here. I think that, like I said, we were disappointed to not have a more wide scope of what fairness requires, these types of complaint mechanism to encompass. We were disappointed. We are considering our options to see if it's something that we should appeal, whether it's something that we are still under consideration. Only that aspect.
And the main reason why the court did not grant the remedies being sought regarding the PSB is that the aggrieved citizen can seek redress in court. Here is Mendes' position on that point.
As the court said, the mechanism that you have for the breach of your rights are the courts, right? And in fact, that's what you've done, and right, that's what you've done, and now you're here, and the court will give you that redress mechanism for you to be able to get some remedies, and that's understandable, right? I think that's understandable. I think that we appreciate that absolutely the courts are there for us to go and vindicate any of our rights, constitutional or very broadly your legal rights. But when we're talking about the interaction between police and the public at large, there's a heightened need for us to have an accessible, a cost-effective, an easy mechanism that the ordinary citizen can go and launch their complaint, because we all benefit from a robust oversight of police, the exercise of police power. And so if we will leave it only to the courts, what that means is that oversight mechanism will now be directly impacted by the resources that ordinary citizens have to actually seek redress from the court. And as we know, it's not cheap to take a case to the court. There's also other implications, right? Whether it is potential reprisals, whether anybody actually has fears of going to court. There's a lot of things that are relevant and in fact act as a disincentive to resorting to court action. And so personally, I do believe that in this area specifically, the court action is not enough if we actually want to foster accountability and transparency within the police department, because we benefit, not only the individual benefits, but society at large benefits by having an easy mechanism to which you can go and make a complaint and not have to be burdened by the idea that I don't have the funds, I can't get a lawyer, I can't pay court fees. And in fact, the studies clearly show that it's the more vulnerable members of society that have less access to financial resources that in fact find themselves in a higher rate of interaction with police.
Notably, the case against Corporal Linda Chun, who was accused of the aggravating behavior, was dismissed, and the other officer was ordered to pay a menial fine of $175. The government of Belize is supporting a beneficial change in policy by the United Kingdom regarding raw cane sugar. It has decided to maintain its existing autonomous tariff quota, which means that there will be no increase in access for suppliers who are not a part of the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States. The Belize government writes in its release yesterday, this decision shared by the British High Commissioner preserves critical market access for Belize's sugar exports in 2025, providing substantial benefits for the country's sugar sector, especially Belize's dedicated cane farmers. The UK will continue to allow 260,000 tons of raw cane sugar to enter its market at a 0% tariff rate, and Belize's sugar exports will retain duty-free, quota-free access under the CARIFORUM UK Economic Partnership Agreement. This stable access is essential for Belize, where sugar is a leading export product and a significant contributor to the national economy, supporting around 12,000 direct jobs and sustaining nearly 50,000 Belizeans in the northern districts. And that is the end of this news update. We now take ourselves a break, and when we come back on the other side, we're going to open up for conversation. You are listening to Creme Radio, you're watching XTV. I'm Mose. We will be right back.
The first private radio in Belize since 1989. The news. Informative, accurate, current information, local, regional, and international news, weather and sports.
right, welcome back. This is WUB Wake Up Billy's Morning Vibes on this Wednesday morning, the 6th of November 2024. Mose Hyde in studios this morning hosting, and we are now in the business of conversation. That means you can call us and we're good. We can talk, we could reason, we could hear from you, you could hear a little bit from me. Yeah, so it works. That's the equation anyway, right now. And all you need to do is just link. The number is 280-5848, and you are on. That's what it's on. That's why we're here. So jump in on this Wednesday morning. Let me just quickly move into a couple of things. We do have, after the first break, we're going to have a Zoom conversation. So we have to juggle it. Early is better. That's what I'm saying. All right. So just in case you never made a watch last night, let me just give you a little bit of, well, I imagine bad news, but there's some folks here who were riding with the ex-president to win, and so I imagine for some it's good news. I'm not here to judge your position. Donald Trump is back. That's what it is. Well, it's like don't call it a comeback. There's a famous hip-hop song that goes like that. Mama Said Knock You Out, I think was the name of the track from LL Cool J. And it opened up with Don't Call It a Comeback. Well, Donald Trump and the Republican Party had a big victorious night, and defeating the Democratic presidential candidate, Kamala Harris. And that's a whole thing. But that's wherever you are on the planet, you don't have to be an American citizen for that to be a consequential result. Many different ways. Obviously, for me, it says a lot. But we're going to have that conversation later on in the show. I'm not going to jump into that now. So a couple of things. I was not here yesterday, and I did not get the chance on Monday to congratulate Corey Williams, who riding for Team Belize, riding for the Belizean flag. Corey Williams is the younger brother of Justin Williams, has been in many events. In fact, essentially lost this year's New Year's Day Cycling Classic, Creme New Year's Day Cycling Classic, January 1st, lost it at the last mile, lasted in a sprint, really coming down the bridge. He was defeated. The race was there for his taking, and it just somehow that didn't happen. Either way, Corey Williams won gold in the Caribbean Cycling Championship that was held in Guyana. So we essentially with that, and I think we also won gold in the U23 Nationals. Derek Chavarria might have won as well, and Corey Williams also got bronze in the time trial championship. So it was a extremely historic weekend for Belizean cycling. And when you talk about the Williams, again, this is something that people have mixed positions on. I don't, and I don't know why anybody should. But for sure, he's in the books, Belizean flag and all, that he's the king of the Caribbean, and that he won it on the road. And we have to salute it, and I've seen very little, to be honest with you, said about it. I've seen very little reported on it, and that's kind of incredible, because ultimately we are supposed to be lovers of the sport of cycling. One of our most prestigious cultural sporting community events is this tradition called the Holy Saturday Race, and so we are forever linked with this sport, in a way that is deeper than just on a competition level. and we've often been left in anguish because of the results of the races, especially the Holy Saturday cycling race. When you're able to win an international event where people are participating from all across a particular region, that's a huge thing. And I feel that a bit of the lack of light is because there's so many stuff going on within cycling, that's not really out in the public. It's there's been some tension, and some of the tension has been around the Williams family, and in my view, unfairly. And so I think, I know that this has been reported on the Cycling Federation's Facebook page, but still it's been very, the response has been very lukewarm at best. And I think that's a disservice. Whatever the internal friction, beefs, quarrels, whatever's going on, excellence is excellence, accomplishment is accomplishment, and what was achieved here, whatever you feel about the Williams family and the brothers, and I find it unacceptable for those who have a negative view. That's completely unacceptable. The fact is that Corey Williams represented in that race as a Belizean rider with the Belizean flag. It's a Belizean victory, and it's quite an achievement, and so we salute it and give it maximum respect. Congratulate, definitely have to congratulate Corey. I think Justin was in the race as well. Got to shout out the Williams family. Of course, they're all in. It's a family thing, and it's just, we know that they ride out in the States. They do the quick circuit and all of that, and these are quite accomplished riders. They rode representing Belize, and they got the victory. Big respect to Corey. We know that Justin has been more successful than Corey riding here in Belize. He's won a couple of cross country. Corey has not won as yet, but Corey has won the national. There's a whole lot of feelings around that again. Sometimes you just have to take on time out from all the contention and the quarreling and whatever, and just say respect where respect has been earned, not asked for or begged for. It's been earned. All right? So I don't know, make that pass and make another day go where I'm on the show and give that maximum salute to Corey, and potentially we would hope to reach out and speak to him and give him the opportunity to remind you folks that our dearly beloved cycling tradition, the Creme New Year's Day Cycling Classic, is right around the corner. Once you hit November, it's on January 1st. It's also about making you know that, my goodness, the year is almost finished. This is the way it goes, right? We're going to go into Garifuna Settlement Day celebrations. We're going to beat them drums. We're going to dance to those drums. We're going to celebrate with our Garinago family and culture. And then after that, we know what happens. You are going to go, probably some of you are already gone, full dived, full sub deep. Okay, you don't even know where you're there. We're gone so deep into the whole Christmas thing already. We know that happens to us, right? And so we know someone who done left the planet and gone in a different zone. That's going to take over the entire month of December. Coming out of that celebration, we turn the page on the year, we enter 2025, and the way we enter the new year, it's our tradition. Creme New Year's Cycling Classic. So just making sure that you know this, and we line that up. Let me take this opportunity. I don't have nobody on the line as yet. I'm just repeat the number, at 280-5848. Last week and maybe the week before, we spent some time, the week before that, and then on last week, Monday, we had Marisol Amaya with us discussing an article that she had wrote for the Mandala, looking at the matter of our exclusive economic zone, the potential, and some issues and suspicions that were surrounding that. It's a tremendous article. But when we were talking with Marisol, she kind of made sure that we were alerted that there were other articles that were coming, colleagues were preparing and that would come out. And she did mention that one of the very significant articles, pieces of journalism that was coming out was being done by Marco Lopez. Marco Lopez is originally XTV, part of our journalist crew, then became the editor of the Mandela newspaper and has since moved on. But operating as a journalist, he has written this article that is in the Mandela newspaper. You can go and check the Mandela, or you can go and check the website. And the name of that article is Code Red in the Blue. I hope I don't mess that up. And I just want to say that it's an absolutely powerful article, and just as Marisol had kind of advertised and promoted that this is a very consequential article, and we again want to point you to it. And out of the articles that Marisol has written, and now Marco, of course it's focused on, a lot of it is focused on the sea, and it's focused on the economic realities and all the different surrounding issues dealing with the people who are a part of this industry, the fishing industry. It's an industry that is of tremendous importance, and that's why we never shy away from giving it its proper due. Yes, we love the sea, and we love eat fish, and we love lobster, and we love all of that. We got tremendous sea and we love the inner sea. We love the the sea. We love, that's just we have a programming, right? But we also have a deep consciousness of the value of the economic opportunity where the sea and its resources present. And we also have a very clear understanding of the amount of people who are touched, who are, this is how they survive. And to some extent, we are aware of some of the issues. And so, if you think that it's hard to get Marisol for company show for talk, easy to forget. Marco for come on, like this. So I don't know if we're able to get him, but we're gonna try. I promise you that, to kind of talk about the article. But first thing first, link the Mandela website and look for that article. And I am, for some reason, I had the article open and I don't know what I've done, so I'm kind of trying to get my game together here. One of the things that I think that is very, so the article is right on the Mandela website, it's Code Red in the Blue, it's Marco Lopez, and I just want to say before even talking about what the article really deals with, is that obviously we are very proud of the tremendous effort that was involved with this article. We're very proud of Marco Lopez, and again, it's not a young brother that really loves the light, doesn't want the light, but it's a young brother that I feel I wish that he was more comfortable coming forward. I feel that where he's from and his story and what he's and his mindset and his focus, he's different. That's a young black Southside Belizean brother that's different. He not straight out of the hood, but I feel like this young brother will show you where all our young brothers could be if we able to could sit and find a way to see if a place and steady themselves. But I think that I want to say this public. I think that Marco have to become more sharing his journey, because I feel, just knowing the little bit that I know, that this is a young brother could be an inspiration to a lot of other young brothers. We're very proud, and I know where the road where Marco has struggled on, where he come from, and how the strength where he got in himself and in mindset, and just intense, intellectual, very very conscious young brother. And so the fact that he's done this work and he continues to do this work is extremely beautiful to see. And so that's on a personal note to Marco. Like, it just, if I may just so had just not another article where it's so consequential and was so important, like, still the fact that the story of Marco is an impressive story unto itself. And we're going to do our best to kind of get it on. Again, I stand a better chance of getting on Marisol and getting on Marco, but we're going to see how that work out, to kind of like, let's discuss the article. And one of the things where the article really deal with, that's something that has been simmering under the surface. We're very conscious of the trials and tribulation of the sugarcane industry. We're very familiar with that long, never-ending tension between the sugarcane growers, farmers, and the mill, the factory, and all the different things. We're very familiar, and every now and then, over the last 15, 20, maybe even 25 years, it erupts into something where take over the news, and we understand the value of sugarcane to the economy. We understand it's a major export, foreign exchange winner, and we understand that the well-being of the north, the northern part of the country, is so connected and interlocked with what happens with sugar. And so a lot of ink, a lot of conversations, a lot of news stories covers that. To a lesser degree, we have an understanding of the citrus industry, where we know things have not gone well in citrus. We have had a steady decline. Some of it dealing with how the industry itself has been managed, and some of it dealing with natural disasters that have impacted that industry. And it is in 2024 at a point where it has significantly changed the composition of that industry and the people who are participating in the industry. And right now, as we speak, it is reshaping and reconfiguring the citrus belt there that we are familiar with when you are going through the Hummingbird and going through these valley communities that for a long time the citrus orchards have provided economic activity. And we know, and again we come up and we know from your tech primary school social studies or whatever, the sugar, citrus, and these are the answers to the questions about what are the important industries. So we are aware of it, and again we have a clear sense of the value, the trouble, the tension, but we know not as good as, and again, citrus requires its own looking into one of the things that has really changed in citrus is that there was once a time when, yes, you had your big growers, but you had a great number of smaller growers. You know, they got a couple citrus farm here and there, and then a part of the industry. There was that was the balance of the industry. So it was a thing. Yes, you have the giants, but you had inclusion, you had participation. Kind of like a similar look at what goes on in sugar at a smaller scale. Citrus is not as big as sugar. Similarly, you had the factory, but put the politics of what has happened at the level of the factory and all of that, and then you bring in an environmental, natural adversity like the greening disease, and it's really pushed a lot of the small farmers out, and a lot of them have sold their properties or out of that now, and the very composition of who is in the citrus industry has changed over the last 15 years, which is a short period of time. But we've had some coverage of that. The fishing industry, and we know that there's been, from time to time, there's been various ways that there's been direct help outs that have been given to the sugar industry. We know over a period of time there's been direct help out, direct infusion of government cash to try help, and access to credit to try help the citrus industry. The fishing industry, because of how it's structured, where it's really not just one part of the country. So you have people who fish coming out of the north, where you have the fishing belt of Sardinia and Chunoch, and maybe to some extent Copper Bank, and then you maybe put that along with some of the fishing interests in Key Corker and San Pedro. Then of course you have the central area where you have what we are familiar with, the Belize City fishers. You go to Vernon Street, you're very familiar, you see those boats going out. Then you have the fishing interest going down in the south, where you have Griga, you have Hopkins, you have St. Bite, and you have all, these separated communities, but they're invested in the same industry. And I'm trying to put that context to let us understand that this is a significant industry because it has 3,000 to 4,000 people who this is how they make a living. And yes, we do have some exporting, but also they provide us. So when we think about what we eat as a people, yes, we need sugar to some extent, and yes, citrus, we get a bit of the citrus, vitamin C and all of that, but fish protein is the royalty of protein. And so the seafood that is provided is something that ends up on all our plates. So it's not only the matter of, those who are directly involved with the industry, but we're also talking about a significant part of what we eat. So there is no denying, even though the appropriate level of attention and focus is hardly ever given to it, you cannot deny the fact that what's going on with fishing and what's going on in the sea is of maximum importance to us, and we should have the same kind of very significant amount of spotlight and energy. And so it's because that has not been happening, it's why the consecutive articles that have been produced, and again it's been produced with some support coming from outside, because these are significant investigative pieces. One we saw from what Marisol produced, and now we have what Marco Lopez has produced. So we are very aware now that this work has been done, and this work is invaluable. And the premise of this article is really putting out there for all to be informed that there is a very serious dispute going on in the world of fishing between the government and the regulatory body, fisheries, on one side, and then you have one of the fisher association with some fisher folk who are using information and data that has been worked upon by an NGO partner from outside that are putting out a different set of data from what the government and the regulatory body are defending. And this quarrel and this fussing and fighting and this dispute has been going on, but beneath the surface. And so what this article written by Marco Lopez is doing is to put it out there. They want you to make it long and short, because like I said, I hope to get Marco here and to really go into the article. The first thing I want to do is read it. I think it's of great importance. You can't squander what has gone into making that article there on the Mandala website. You get it on the, I believe it would be in yesterday's edition of the Mandala. I got to confirm that before the show is done today. But back to back, you have these very critical, in-depth, investigative pieces on an industry and the industry stakeholders that have not benefited from the same quality of consistent spotlight and coverage. So this is stepping into a serious vacuum. But the long and short of it is that the regulatory body, the fisheries, has been pushing back on data that says our fishing stock is at a critical point, a point where it could just collapse. The government and the regulatory body are saying that not so, that the expert who did it and the organization that is sponsoring it, that they're not crazy people, that data is wrong. And then you have on the other side these folks and the fishers who have been listening to what has been said to them, that essentially are saying, no, this data can't be wrong. And that the people who have done this work are world recognized for the work that they've done. Like these are leading global experts. One in particular is considered the number one person at assessing fishing stock in the world, and looking at fishing stock and lobster and conchs and saying it's at a critical point, and that if things are not done now, it just goes completely down, caves in. And the work that Marco does presenting those sides of the argument as best he can, because there's also a battle to get the data that the government and its regulatory body are claiming they have. And even that data and the mechanism for that data is completely cross-examined and found extremely lacking. You just have to deal with this article for you to understand. Listen, sugar have trouble, citrus step on the ropes, but our fishing industry is at a very precarious point, at a very critical point. And we have to, at the very least, have an understanding, and you have to say, well, where you believe that no worry, things that handle sustainably and we manage it well, or the other side of the story that this thing will look for go completely in the water, literally and figuratively, this thing will for just collapse. That are basically the two sides of the argument. And so I do have to go to break. I just really wanted to, as best I could, put some attention to the article. And I know out of the article that was done by Marcel, another great piece, we've had multiple conversations with the Leeds Federation of Fishers Director. Brother Nigel has called in. We've also had a couple of other people call in. Listen, and again, Brother Nigel has pointed out the article as well before. He knows the work that's going into this article. Listen, undeniable that the fishing industry is of serious importance to us, not just because of the fact that they bring in money and it got 3,000 to 4,000 people to survive. That was a source of protein food for it. A significant source under the best protein, animal-based protein, you would have a seafood that depend on plate regularly. So you can't deny the importance of the industry, and if you can't deny the importance of the industry, then you can't deny the immense value that has been contributed by the work that has been done by Marisol. We give Marisol the flowers last week. Today we give Marco Lopez a full flowers, and with the said to you were the listener, you were the watch. I know, read the article for you, but I said to you, pay attention to this issue. Pay attention to it. Yes, you got the graph, you got the science in it, but the writing of the article really makes sure that you could understand enough to know a big quarrel they go on here with very important consequences on the line if this is not settled in a way that is based on facts and truth, and then with a sense of how are we going to support and take care of, and the decisions that we have to make based on the facts. We're not getting ahead of ourselves though. We want to check out the article. For right now, we're going to break, 2 cents camps, sponsored by 4-Point Security. Then we take our first commercial break. When we come back, we're going to have guests via Zoom.
What you think about it, man? I think they need they need to wait for traffic most of the time.
Not really, I don't think so.
All right, that's your 2 cents.
Yes, thank you so much.
They always speed and they not traffic way.
Yeah.
That's your 2 cents.
Yeah,
They don't want a problem to the traffic. You run man, they want to do delivery.
No, they're good.
All right.
Vibes. Mose Hyde hosting today, Wednesday the 6th of November, 2024. And unless you went to sleep really early yesterday evening and you're just waking up, you might not be aware of what most of us already know, that it's the return of the Don. The Don has returned as Donald Trump has been elected for a second time as President of the United States of America, defeating the Democratic opponent, still VP till she comes out on January, Kamala Harris. And I had actually from yesterday, I'd asked a couple of people to join me this morning who live in America, who I potentially, I know well, one for sure had voted, Belizean as well, to talk to me about the vibes the morning after. And so I am joined by our Thursday night host of Naval String Connections. He's been doing the WUB for a long time. He's no stranger to zinc. He's our dear brother out in Los Angeles, California, teacher, historian, journalist. Bilal Morris is in the Zoom, and also joined by Dr. Ronald Hyde, coming out of the swing state called Arizona. Just so you know, for full disclosure, he's also my uncle. So 2 Hydes for the price of 1 this morning. But Bilal, Dr. Ron, aka Uncle Ron, good morning, welcome to WUB. I had messaged Dr. Hyde last night to tell her, 7:30, join me for the victory party, but it's not a victory party. It's a very terrible morning, I imagine, for you. Well, I don't know about Brother Bilal. I don't know if he was Trump or Kamala or indifferent, but I know for a fact that my uncle is a Democrat and a supporter of Kamala Harris, so I know it's a tough morning. What's going on?
Yeah, it's a tough morning. The electoral process is always a fraught process, and the way it works is that the majority makes the bed, and everybody else must lie in it. And depending on your position in life, your wealth, your status, your skin tones, all of these things affect the way you respond to the results of elections. Some people are in a position where the election itself doesn't necessarily affect them in a day-to-day way, and in other cases, it's a much more profound impact on people's daily lives. So it always requires a bit of thought afterwards and to try to understand what happened and why. So,
Brother Bilal?
Greetings and good morning to our viewers. Greetings, Dr. Hyde. And greetings to you, Mose. For me, it was not much of a surprise. I've been studying and watching the whole political situation with the upcoming American presidential elections. I've been watching it for months, and I realized everything that I had predicted would have come to pass. One, I realized that the U.S. Democratic Party has begun to have failed the American people. I go back to Malcolm X's speech, the ballot or the bullet, when he mentioned that the Democratic Party has always put, black people has always voted for the Democratic Party, and they have always put the Democratic Party, the U.S. Democratic Party first, but when the U.S. Democratic Party comes into power, they always put the black electorate last. And I very much, I am neither Democrat nor a Republican, and I have a sense enough to know that. I'm neither PUP nor UDP, and have the sense to know that. But I'm a political analyst and someone who has, as a journalist, watched these trends and studied political history globally in the United States. And I realized that watching the young black electorate, particularly men, moving across to the Republican Party, as you know the history, American U.S. history, that the party that black people used to support in the United States was the Republican Party. And then they moved over across to the Democratic Party. The reason I'm stressing this is because it always be the black vote in the United States that decide who goes in to the White House. It has always been that. They have always decided who is going to be president. And that's political history if you go all the way back into the 50s and the 60s. And it's the same thing today. And I feel when I watch those trends of young black men moving across to the Republican Party, being that they have seen their marginalization and their disenfranchisement after the U.S. The immigration policy, the failed immigration policy that the United States has had. I see a similar trend in Belize, where illegal refugees coming across the U.S. border, particularly in the state where I live in California, and displacing them to a large extent. And you have seen this over the last decade, where America's immigration policy was broken. And president after president, including Trump himself, who came to power in 2020, that he attempted to try to fix that immigration policy, came to power on that immigration policy, but never did do much in terms of fixing it. And then along came the Biden administration, which kind of just failed in its policy to address that. There are so many things, Mose, that was
So,
at
I would like
issues
to-
that
I- I would
defined this election. It was the illegal immigration, the economy, abortion, and of course American foreign policy abroad, particularly in Israel and in the Ukraine, the wars, American taxpayers' money going to finance wars where there's a large proportion of displacement of Americans that have become homeless, who have been feeling the pinch. And so I think that this swing that we see, particularly where Trump overperformed in many of these states, the swing is a mandate and a message to the American Democratic Party that people have got tired of the same old, and that these issues have not been addressed. And so, in a nutshell, in a spin, my spin this morning is that's what I have seen that was unfolding, and it finally climaxed into the re-election of Donald Trump.
No, thank you both. I guess that is a analysis that is looking from within. From the outside, I guess the reason why I would even spend any time at all bringing it into this space, which is the WUB, is because of the particular type of positions and policies and the people that are a part of the. I don't know that this is a new process. This is the MAGA movement, and the MAGA movement is not exactly identical to what would you consider to be the traditional Republican system. So we have never spent any time looking at the American election in this show, because it's never, it's like, okay, we understand the empire and we understand their implications for us. But I think just like most people on the planet, the election of yesterday got your attention, and it got your attention because the positions and the energy coming from Mr. Trump's campaign, you must concede, is extremely different. And I spent maybe a portion of the actual event that was held in Madison Square Garden, and I was, to be honest, like, even though I don't have a horse in the race per se, like I don't know how you separate the policy challenges or what you align yourself with or what you're facing, and how you navigate dealing with those and then dealing with what was being projected at that event, which I've never seen anything like that before. I've never, the speakers who were talking there, I remember listening to one, Steve Miller. This is some very, very serious rhetoric. Now, because of that and because of the rhetoric, now I guess the way that it's being, the narrative is that the rhetoric is just the rhetoric, but deal with us for the nutrition, don't worry about the rhetoric. As an outsider looking in, how do you feel we should look at the rhetoric, which essentially, if you are to put it in a nutshell, is to say America is going to be about Americans, it's going to be inward, it's going to be about us, and it's not going to be about any of our own chair. We know to worry about climate change, we know to worry about we to deal with we. And this is the architects of this whole MAGA policy and ideology are not people who I would consider to be have any sense of fairness or respect for what happens to small little countries on its doorsteps like Belize. So to both of you, what are your thoughts about what you consider to be the implications of the return to regional relationships, as well as to, in particular, how we do here and how our people who are in America are going to do?
You know, I think the questions you're asking are really on point, because there is a narrative that my brother Bilal has explained, the idea that black people in the U.S. have been a major decisive force in elections and that they haven't gotten their just rewards. But the initial data coming out of the election shows that Trump was put back into power by white people. Black people voted in the typical pro-Harris way, and there was a surge of white people that bought into this MAGA xenophobia. Haitians are eating your pets. I live in a border state, and I am therefore living in a place that is supposedly overrun with people coming across the border, murderers, rapists, robberies, and of course, I have experienced none of that, and all of my friends joke about the fact that none of us has ever seen any of this Armageddon that's reported. So we do have somebody who gained his power, by threatening to build a wall that Mexico would pay for, and this time around, and that rally with describing, Puerto Rico and its people as garbage, and then diving into it even afterwards, not backing off from that characterization. It is a very racist, xenophobic mantra that MAGA, has been espousing, and there are lots of coalitions that form in an election, and obviously there were a lot of white people in this country who rejected that Trump vision, but he won the election with white people. Yeah, it's actually interesting that he actually captured a number of Hispanic people, more so than anybody had done for a few decades on the Republican side. But one of the most interesting things about the election, and one of the reasons why I had actually thought that Harris would win, was based on the fact that the historian Alan Lichtman, who has successfully predicted every election over the last 4 decades, had predicted her victory based on keys that he has identified: the economic prosperity of the country, the lack of internal upheaval, a number of different factors. And those factors have predicted almost every election for the last 200 years in the US. And the question I wondered was, women have never been on the ballot before. A black man did win the presidency, yes. And the modern age of misinformation has never been tested against these keys. So in an earlier era, when all the men were white and it was a different era in terms of information transfer, you could see where historical keys were dealing with the same set of factors. But now you throw in some wild cards. You say, okay, what if we test this theory with a woman? What if we test this theory with a black woman? What if we test this theory with a cascade of information about people eating dogs and cats in Ohio? What if we tell people and convince them that crime is skyrocketing? What if we tell them that the economy is doing poorly, when in fact the US economy is the best in the world? Unemployment is historic lows, the stock market is record highs. The poorest people in the country have gained ground economically, but we can convince people that that is not true. So you look at someone like Trump and you say, well, he's trying to get elected, and he figured out a way to do that. Whether Trump is actually going to enact tariffs, I have grave doubts. I suspect that having been elected, he will ride the Biden recovery. And in January, we're going to start hearing about how great the U.S. economy is, because it really is doing well. And the tariffs will kind of fade away, and some of the things that he said he'll do will probably fade away. And now that he's not running for re-election again, I'm interested to see whether he still continues talking about how bad the border is and things like that. The Democrats have been lambasted for the border, but the truth is that border crossings are actually down. And I think it's unfortunate that we don't have Harris as the president, because her role in controlling that border crisis was to go into Central America and try to get greater investment in the region to reduce the reasons why people try to come across the border. And I would have hoped that in that kind of environment, it might have encouraged further foreign investment in Belize, to create more jobs in Belize, to reduce the desire of Belizeans to come across the border. But now, that posture is going to be quite a bit different, and people are demonized rather than understanding that we live in a world where people, their natural impulse is to try and find a better life. So,
Brother Bilal?
Yeah, I agree a lot with what Ronald had to say, Dr. Hyde. In terms of that, the American economy under President Biden has done well, extremely well. We are trying, as political analysts, we are trying to understand this whole trend, because here you are as a president for 4 years doing performing at your best in terms of the economy. And I do understand Trump's rhetoric has been totally very, very erratic, abusive, sometimes racist at most, when it comes to immigrants. But it was very interesting to notice that despite of even the attack on Haitians, and I have to say that watching young black and Latino voters, the trend was showing that they were moving towards Trump. And it was very strange because despite of his rhetoric, there was this alignment and the shift away. The American whites are the largest electorate in the United States, despite of anything else. And in places like Pennsylvania, where Harris had to try to win, Michigan and Georgia and North Carolina and those places like that, was not showing. And I realized that the black vote, the Latino vote, the Muslim vote, the Arab vote, they were all playing out here, and everybody had their issues. Despite of his rhetoric, despite of this rhetoric that he was expounding, the spitting, do you find that there were people who were licking their own wounds, and were not paying attention at all to this very abusive rhetoric? And it was scary. We as political pundits and analysts were looking to realize that this strange shift from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party from these other minority electorates was really, really strange. And despite of the fact that the white electorate is the majority, but it is historical that black vote will always be the deciding factor, and it was not looking good for Harris. I will want to say this. It appeared that after President Biden had to step down, Kamala Harris, my bad. Kamala Harris had to step in there like a sacrificial lamb. She did not have enough time. So she needed more time. She was a very effective candidate. She gave it all that she could in terms of stepping into that shoes. But I believe that there are a couple things that overshadowed and spilled over into her from President Biden's presidency. Number one, the wars in Ukraine and the war in Israel, between Israel and Hamas and now Hezbollah, and the amount of taxpayers' money. Not only that the white electorate voted in Trump based on the fact of other issues, but they mainly were looking at how their taxpayers' money were being used to finance these wars in Ukraine and in Israel. And they spoke. They spoke, and I believe that played a significant role in that shift. As Dr. Hyde rightfully said, that it is the white electorate that has brought Trump to power. And I think that a lot of them see Trump as an anti-war president. They see Trump as an anti-war president candidate, whereas they saw Biden as a pro-war. You have to understand that the American military-industrial complex is a very powerful thing, and that there are forces that are in the United States that refuse to make that change. And I think that status quo see Trump as a threat to them from his inception of coming into power at the beginning of his first presidency. And I think that what we see there is a lot of factors besides just the bread and butter issues that dominate American domestic politics playing out.
Before I go to break, and I'm realizing the challenge to get both of you who are living in the United States of America to look at the results as it relates to we here in Belize, right? because I understand you are immersed in the reality of what the politics means right up close to you both. I would want, before I go to break, point out something that I think we have to be careful of, and I see the mainstream media is essentially saying, it's the Hispanic vote, and it is the Hispanic males and the young black males who played a part in Trump re-election. That I feel is a lie. Not statistically. Statistically, obviously, he did a little better with both these groups, but that's not why he won. But it's the more convenient thing to look at, because then you don't have to explain why he overperformed in all these red counties, districts that are primarily white. He won the same way in Georgia that he won in North Carolina, in Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin and Michigan. He won the same way because my dad and myself, we were watching it. And when they were breaking it down, this is early, and we were listening to these guys ignoring the fact that the statistics keeps on saying that every single red county, basically where predominantly white people were, his percentages were ticking higher, everyone, and that remained consistent in all 7 states. So for the mainstream media to come out this morning and start, in my view, to play this game or to say, well, we don't have to explain the intensity of this passion that these folks have for this man that says all these things, because hey, we got a handful extra of Latin males and a handful extra of black males that supported him. I think it's a convenient little bit of fact that is being used as a deflector to confront the reality. As my father said when I was leaving his house, I was leaving his house at around 7:30 last night. And just based on what was emerging from Georgia alone, he said, son, it's white power tonight. That's at 7:30 last night, Brother Bilal. And I find it to be absolutely true so when I got up this morning and started reading and started hearing, get away with that. I don't want to hear that. Listen, this mandate was delivered. This mandate was delivered based on the numbers. When you go and you look at where there was improvement across the board from what he did in 2020, it was in these areas. And so I think for me now is the only thing that I really, as a non-American, but who has to deal with the reality of the empire at a very close proximity, and because I know now one of the promises that have been made is that people are going to be rounded up. And I know people, I have people, and a lot of our people are there living in America without all the required documents and processes. I'm not calling it illegals, I'm a human being, no illegal to me when they try to survive, right? But I understand, laws are laws. But we have people there, and there are going to be consequences with this American First policy, and there are going to be consequences with the kind of emphasis that's going to be placed on, and I mean, their rhetoric, if they even have 50% of what they're saying, that they are going to find the 10 million, 12 million people that they need to get out of their country who are poisoning the country. That's going to be intense. And some of our people are going to be in that, are going to get caught in that. And again, the implications for how we deal with that here as a community, again, are things we have to think about. And so that was upon my mind this morning. I understand. I said I had an argument with your G-Mike, because I was saying, listen, yes, there are a lot of different issues going on, but the number one issue that this guy has used to create his platform is immigration. That's the way he started when he first entered politics, and that's remained his song. He has put everything on that, and so a lot of the people are motivated because of their feeling that they are being invaded. People have come to believe that, and they feel they are being invaded by people who are lesser than them. They don't mind if they hear that we are importing maybe some South Africans like Elon Musk. That's not the problem that they have. The problem they have is when the persons look like us. And that is what drives them. So I think from that standpoint, as an outsider to the process, that will be my concern, if beginner ends, about what happened yesterday. Because obviously, this is the United States of America, and the Americans decided yesterday, and I'm in a process. Unlike 2020, where nobody know the question the results. So that's where it is. That's the way the cookie crumbles. Good, but the implications, I feel, are significant for us if we want to look at it from the standpoint of the rounding up of our people. I will hear a thought. If you guys can manage to just bear with me, I go to break, come back and hear you both respond to that, if you don't mind.
All right. No problem.
All right.
they are the majority.
Belize. All right, welcome back. Welcome, Belize Morning Vibes. It's Wednesday morning, 6th November, and a first for us here. We are talking a little bit about the American elections with a couple their friends and family from abroad. We have Brother Bilal Morris. He's in Los Angeles, California. He also hosts a show here on XTV, Camille Neighbor String Connections, and Brother Bilal, we are Brother Bilal. And and out of the swing state of Arizona, my uncle, but not the in the capacity of my uncle, there as I know here based on medical training, he's a doctor, but you know he's the most passionate Democrat I know. So I'm not saying you're the most passionate Democrat in the world, you know, just the most passionate one I know. Where I could say, you know, I never know that. This morning I thought, to be honest with you, I thought, listen, certain things may emerge to suggest that the woman would take over the election and it would be a Kamala night. I thought that's what it would have been. I initially didn't see her winning because I thought she would have to be perfect, but then I guess based on what I was reading, it seemed like, especially on the last couple of weeks, she really kind of got some momentum, but that was a mirage. But I asked you both about the implications when it comes to like a more specific thing as it relates to us here, because I have to bring the conversation to we, and I brought up the matter of the rounding up of people who are not don't have the proper documentation to be in the United States. Some of them who will be Belizeans, of course.
Yeah, you know, when you're right, you're right. And I have to say that I do agree with your analysis of the xenophobic and racist aspect of Trump's success. I want to touch base just quickly. You know, when he first went on the show with the black journalist, and he said, "Oh, you know, she turned black." You know what I thought? I thought, what he's doing is two things. One, he's trying to undermine her credibility amongst the black population as a black person. But more than that, he's trying to remind all the white people that she's black. And so I really thought that she ran about as perfect a campaign as you could under the circumstances. And what I don't know, and I'm hoping this will be the case, is that if you're trying to round up all these people, it takes people to round them up. Unfortunately, in Arizona, as part of this mania about immigration, which he has successfully fomented, proposition passed to allow local law officials to round up people, immigrants. Now, in the past, that has been challenged in court by the federal government because immigration is a federal task. And so both in Texas and in Arizona, they've passed those propositions. With Trump as the president, the Justice Department may not oppose those local agencies that are trying to intervene in that. And so if people in Arizona want to spend Arizona money hiring people to go round up people and deport them, and in Texas, it might actually be very successful because there won't be any opposition from the federal government in terms of encroachment on federal ground. So yeah, I do think that a Trump xenophobic, anti-immigrant, anti-black, anti-color kind of posture will potentially have an impact on our people in the U.S. because if you've got Arizona and Texas following along that line, then certainly those people in those countries are going to be, in jeopardy. Luckily for our people, many of them are in places in California and in some bluer areas where the impetus to be rounding people up won't be so great. And the federal government is going to have to find money to hire people to do the rounding up if they're not being rounded up by the local officials, as in Texas and Arizona, which ironically was that famous bill that was being, part of that bill that they had come up with before that Trump had scotched because he didn't want any progress made on immigration to take away one of his talking points. But it'll be interesting for Belizeans who don't have papers as they fight through this next 4 years.
I talk from a perspective, I think Dr. Hyde's position was well sounded in terms of living out in the United States, there in Arizona, very close to that border, and where there is a lot of people a lot of immigrants from various countries, whether they are documented or undocumented. But I speak from the California region, where the Belizeans are the largest black immigrant group. You have Latino immigration, and then you have black immigration, which composes of people from the African diaspora, Africans, the Caribbean, Central Americans. But the Belizeans are the largest black immigrant group, which was told to me from the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, who said they vote for her in her constituency when asked, how do you know that the Belizeans are the largest black immigrant group? So that comes from a factual standpoint. There is no disputing that, and if you go research it, you will see that it is. Now, most of these Belizeans they vote Democratic because they live in Democratic districts in Los Angeles, in the district of Maxine Waters, which is a Democratic district, and in the district of Karen Bass when she was the congresswoman before she became mayor. These Belizeans, during the first coming to power of Donald Trump as president, they voted, majority of them voted, I would say 99% of them voted Democratic, voted for the Democratic candidate. You find that there are a small group of Belizeans that are Republicans. And there is a small group of them who I have met and I have discussed issues with that are Trump supporters and still are. And you try to discuss the matter with them to find out what it is that they embrace. What are some of the issues, or why is it that they embrace a candidate like that? And it's very interesting and it's very strange you to find out some of the things. Some of the things are very solid. They are very factual in terms of why they support it. But you have to understand that also, I don't want to spill on on myself and Dr. Hyde, but you have to understand that the Belizean political electorate, both at home and abroad, is not politically mature. They are not politically mature. They cannot dissect the mass media issues. They cannot look at election time. They just vote for me as a Belizean journalist who has participated for 30 years in this Los Angeles community. I don't think a lot of them understand the underlying issues that are playing out in these elections. Now, again, in this election, the majority of them, from my activism and looking at this election and working in the Belizean community from months ago coming into this election, years ago coming into this election, that the majority of the black Belizean electorate I could speak about. I do not know about the Latino Belizean electorate, because we have to understand, like it or not, that most mestizo Belizeans that come to the United States align themselves with that Latino electorate, a large amount of them. And that's why Karen Bass, which was the congresswoman, says that the Belizeans are the largest black. They are talking about that Creole and that Garifuna group of Belizeans. Excuse my breaking down of the demographic, but most of them, that black Belizean electorate, vote Democratic and have voted for Kamala Harris in this presidential elections. And I know a lot of them are disappointed to this morning. They have been disappointed that that she was not elected to become the president of the United States. Now, what are the consequences now in terms of that black Belizean electorate that I speak about, particularly in my confines here in Los Angeles, California, the city that has the largest Belizean community outside of Belize itself, right? What are the consequences of a Donald Trump coming to power for the second time and his threats of mass deportations and things of that? Any Belizean that is an illegal, that is undocumented in this country, as Moses, you rightfully saw in the Belize Diaspora Summit, was a litmus test, was a sort of sign to show you at the Lands and Survey Department, when Minister Colonel Hyde and his staff were honoring a lot of our Belizean people with land. A lot of these Belizeans were not documented, and they want to go home, but they can't go home because they don't have nowhere to go, and if they go, they can't come back. I have spoken to some of them that was in that room, and that was one of the reason why they were taking advantage of trying to get some kind of a piece of property to build something to get out of here, because they fear deportation. Many have been deported in the past, not only for reasons but for illegal reasons, for getting into trouble, drug dealing and things of the sort, why a lot of our people. But our people, that black Belizean electorate is a working class, blue-collar worker in the United States, being documented or undocumented. Most of that black Belizean electorate that I speak about are law-abiding citizens. They are not these criminals that Donald Trump speaks about, not at all. So it is a false concept he presents when he talks about that. And I would want to say that California is a sort of a safe haven, a refugee for immigrants that has come into this. As we know, there's a state law that protects immigrants in California, particularly Latino immigrants who I'm sorry to say, that have got the best of the American taxpayers' money when it comes to making sure that they have been provided. And I think this is where the backlash on the Democratic Party has happened, where many these black people, and even the ones that have supported Kamala Harris, have been grumbling. I remember being a black immigrant coming and working at McDonald's, and I was told by my African-American friends, you niggers coming over here taking away our jobs. I mean, it's real. It's real. And so you have to understand that the grumbling of the African-American electorate continues. And particularly they are seeing these Latino immigrants, particularly here in California where I live, and you can imagine what goes on across the states where they bust these immigrants, right? They see a threat. They see the displacement and the marginalization and the disenfranchisement of their own people, and these black Belizean immigrants are part of it. I've heard black Belizean immigrants joining forces that behaving like they are not an immigrant themselves, and I have to remind a lot of them, you are an immigrant yourself. You cannot be talking like that. But they themselves are victims of racism. Understand? The black Belizean immigrant is a victim of racism.
My time
and
is
so they themselves find a connection, despite of the fact that their African American brothers and sisters look at them as also a threat to their taking away, as I use that in quotes, taking away your jobs. And so the coming to power of a Donald Trump presidency, Mose, and how that will affect Belize, it will affect Belize tremendously. And it will also, I think that his government will start going into these Central American countries and say, you're going to have to do something about your border, particularly Belize, with these porous borders, of having these Central American refugees pouring into its borders. I do not have no kind of border control. So you will see a lot of pressure coming from a Trump presidency in terms of telling these Central American presidents that they need to tighten up their borders themselves.
I got to get in. I guess I just want to, because of time, say, well, the one silver lining behind Trump's victory is that, yes, on Monday when I was on the show, I said, you know, my advice to my brothers and sisters and family abroad is, if Kamala Harris wins, don't come out of your house, stay low, stay in, stay safe. Because if the reverse had happened, I don't know how calm the states would have been today. I don't know it would have been calm at all. So I guess the one silver lining is that the peaceful people have lost.
Yeah.
Or people were overtaken by defeat. And I also, one of the things I said as well is that, I've said when I spoke about this, is that my reaction to I spend a lot of time, it's entertaining. It's not something I do studiously. It's like fun. I love watching interviews with people who are the MAGA followers. I love hearing them. I love hearing them in the raw on YouTube, and the things that they say and the things they believe. And it's not that they're saying very pleasant stuff. In the rank and file of the MAGA movement, and you listen to them, I do it a lot on YouTube, and some of their podcasters, I listen to it. And it's raw, and it's unpleasant, and at times deeply grotesque. But it informs me. And I think what it should do is to inform us, and inform especially our leadership, for them to understand that what has happened is that the mightiest country on earth, who's just a little north of us, has taken a turn, and it's going to be about itself. Based on its rhetoric, it's going to be about itself in a naked and unapologetic way. And that, not that leadership is not to always be its best version of itself, to make sure that it's looking after the interests of its people in a way that protects it and secures the best possible opportunities for them here at home. But in light of the turn that America has taken, our leadership now has even a greater responsibility to ensure that we take advantage of where we have here to look after for we interests. Because you can't feel about me where you feel about me there. But then you want to get involved in my tourism. You want to get involved in my all the different nice parts of where the little bit that we have. You can't have your cake and eat it too. And I think that is one of the like, we can't control that. Like, if that is how you feel, that is how you feel. But we got a responsibility, especially leadership here now, to know, okay, America gone there. The majority of people who voted yesterday, that's what they want, and they have a right to choose that. And I think it's an enviable thing that you all have an election where part of the choices have such ideological clarity, like one represent this and the other one represent this. We don't have, unfortunately, any kind of ideological divide between our political aspirants and the respective parties. Like there's no, you can't put your hand on it. Besides the different color and the different flag when they want to hold up, it's all murky. It's not based on ideology. It's not emotions, as you describe it. But when we look at what has happened there and the choice that you have made, that's not to say that every single American endorses that, or every single white American endorses that. But we have to recognize that the majority have given the power to a movement that represents that about us internally, and we are really there for we. So we we can't be simpleton out here and just say, well, and be business as usual. Yeah. And that's not to say that Miss Harris would have been benevolent to us, or that she not be about the empire priorities as well, of course. But there's a stark swing with this MAGA ideology, which goes further than anything that exists before. And our leadership has to act and reflect in a way that deals with this new reality and make we be Bowie. We have to be more Bowie than ever before, because that's the change that has happened that we have to accept. What I want to hear both of you guys' thoughts on that before I close off and go to break.
Mose, let me jump in because I have to take off too. But again, here's the thing about that MAGA movement. That MAGA movement, it would be one thing if that MAGA movement was about America, and when they said America, they meant all of America, all the people, all the diversity. That is the richness of this U.S. country. But no, when they say America first, they mean white America first. They don't mean everybody. And so when I look at Belize, I say our disagreements, any country's disagreements should be about policy. What is the best way to achieve things? And what I worry about in Belize is that sometimes we copy the worst of America. And I would hate to think that we would become a country that would discard the information about a known rapist, criminal felon who was a horrific steward of the healthcare system just because he's white. And I would hate in Belize for us to reach a point where our little divisions, we have lots of great, beautiful diversity. And I always think of Belize in a way like the vision of America, out of many one, right? E pluribus unum. But that is not what they are yet. But in Belize, we can be that. And so our leaders, it's okay for us to say, hey, we need to make our Belizeans the focus, and we need to put ourselves first. And if we're going to have people coming in from abroad, they better take a racism test. We don't want any racists coming into our country and bringing their horrible attitudes to infect our Belizean, we want to be ala with a wanda Belize. And we have to make sure that we don't fall into the trap of these divisions that get deeper and deeper to the point where we hate each other the way the U.S. is trending right now with this MAGA movement. Because when you hear the rhetoric, they hate the other people in the country. And we need to guard against that. So there's a lesson, I think, for Belize in what has happened to America, which I'm hoping America can pull out of it because I still live here for now. But when I come back to Belize, I don't want to come back to another version of America where people are divided in this way, and that their divisions, ethnic divisions, are more important than the policy that is best for the country.
But Bilal?
Yeah, I trumpet what Dr. Hyde is saying, and I would go further to say that Belize the government of Belize need to pay attention to its geopolitics. I think that the Belizean political electorate needs to begin to start paying attention to its geopolitics. I think that the Belizean electorate is too confined into domestic affairs, similar to how the American electorate is so confined into a lot of these domestic affairs, and they are not understanding how international relations, and as Dr. Hyde said, this spill off. America exports its culture into your society, and if you do not have protections against it, and Belize is already far gone when it comes to becoming like a little American satellite. We have seen our culture has transformed over decades. And if you talk to the young Belizean electorate on the streets today, everything American is first, is so important. I don't think that there is anything in place in our country, in Belize itself, in the education system, that will protect our people culture, as Dr. Hyde is talking about, this multiculturalism. As you rightfully speak, Mose, America has a big stick policy, American foreign policy, how its export comes in and take advantage of all these countries' tourism. Most of these American expatriates that live in Belize itself are not necessarily racists, but we find that Belize over the years have housed a Ku Klux Klan person in San Pedro. We have seen McAfee coming into that country, Belize, and that just come in and do stuff with impunity, blowing up our reef to put their resorts. I think that, and we don't have anything in our judicial legislative system to protect the Belizean people. We talk about that thin line that is between the fabric of our multiculturalism. We are looking at the influx of Central American refugees coming in that have displaced Belizean black people and marginalized and disenfranchised a lot of Belizean black people. It's there. We see the Belizeans go home and they come back and they talk about it. Just like the United States, as an educator and teacher myself, these classrooms in the United States are predominantly Latinos, Hispanics. You go to Belize, that is happening the same way. It's not an anti-Central American immigrant perspective I'm presenting here. But these are the kinds of things that has played out in the United States and has spilled off and will spill off into Belize. Our governments need to begin to start to look keenly what is happening on its own doorfront, on its own front, in terms of illegal immigration into Belize, and how these illegal immigrants have been used for political expediency that has propped up one government and the violation of the Belizean constitution that have displaced particularly Belizeans in the diaspora, which is that large black immigrant group that I speak about. And so I'm looking at it on a broader perspective, mostly from how American foreign policy has affected Belize in itself and has changed Belizean culture and has impacted Belize, and how the underlying Central American refugee influx into Belize itself has displaced black Belizeans, seriously marginalized and disenfranchised them. And so we ourselves at home, our governments at home itself, will have to begin to start to address that, and seriously begin to start to address that, because we don't want to see, as Dr. Hyde rightfully say, that kind of mentality that is coming out of a Donald Trump presidency. And I fear, as I said, how American foreign policy, in terms of him going out and trying to curb illegal immigration into the United States, right? The American foreign policy in Central America itself will be a part of his policy, and how our governments deal with their borders and itself. I think that Kamala Harris, if she was elected, as Dr. Hyde rightfully said, would have done the same thing, and I think the Biden administration did that, going out to these Central American countries and trying to have them to be a part of a collective effort to try to curb illegal immigration, securing your borders. We have an Anglo-Guatemalan claim, a very pressing claim, and we have our country taken for adjudication to the International Court of Justice. And the United States foreign policy under Kennedy has always, through the Webster proposals, have always ruled in favor of Guatemala, that Belize become a republic of the republic. Belize become a part of the Republic of Central America. So Belizeans need to start paying attention to foreign policy, and they need to start understanding that the coming to power of a Donald Trump presidency is going to be very, very serious, and you will start to see some serious draconian policy affecting the region. And so that's how I'm looking at that from a broader international perspective, as well as how it will affect us domestically and how our governments, how the Belizean government will be able to deal with.
I guess we can all agree.
Have not been able to deal with those things that they should have dealt with.
All right, Bilal, because of time, I do have to cut you because I'm trying to avoid cutting you, but it's almost already 9. I got to stop. I want to thank you both, and I guess we can all agree that it is not a change to go without notice and without taking an understanding of what the implications are at all levels, but especially in leadership positions, to understand and to calculate the new navigational settings that are required in light of the change that has happened. It's not just about one man. It's the fact that a huge number of people in this mighty country have chosen this particular direction, and that has to have implications, and that has to influence the way we look out as well as the way we look in. I feel how it shapes it, well, that's for debate, for discussion. We can have that on next time. I want to thank you both. We've never done this before, where we even have any discussion about the elections, but I think this one required the moment to say, hey, something serious going on there. I think so. It's my conviction that that's a very significant choice that has been made, because nobody is going to be able to argue that they are surprised by anything that comes out of this new direction, because they have said everything up front. It's like this, they've said, we going out bad, and so you can't say nothing. That's it. And so, and this is not about, like I said, it's not my business to be anti this or pro that. It's not my choice, it's not my vote. My business that, but we're not living in our bubble. I want to thank you both again, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the different perspectives.
Banoskana Chris.
All right, Billies, we are out of here for today. We're going to leave on the break. Thank you for joining us. Have a great Wednesday. Health and Strength will be back tomorrow morning, 6:30, Thursday morning. Wake Up Billies Morning Vibes. Give salute. Larry G, up at XTV, the Glue, Mr. Cliff Lewis, Director Krista Flowers. Stand strong, stand firm for no. We're gone. Final break.
It's an massive season with massive deals and rewards at Penny's from now through December 31st.